What about chickens?
Well, they're sentient individuals too. I'm here to speak up for all non-human animals.
I'm just saying chickens seem like they only have one purpose, and that's to be eaten. Like, what do chickens do?
Well, that's no different to saying that black people only have a purpose to be slaves, right?
If someone from a marginalised group is supporting the oppression of another marginalised group, that's not the flex that you think it is.
Oh, Miss Tash Peterson. Like mother, like daughter, huh? It wasn't enough for Miss Katie to pull the racism card, right? The racism is the same as animal slaughter, obviously, right? You had to go and do it too. Join her in this fight in favor of racism, because that's exactly what is happening. You're crying and complaining that people are labeling you a racist. Well, that's what happens when you go around being racist. That's what happens when you say these ridiculous things, saying that black peoples are equivocal to chickens, that slavery is equivalent to taking eggs from a chicken. That is what happens, Miss Peterson. Now, before a bunch of y'all get your panties in a bunch about me calling her that vegan teacher's daughter, what you need to understand is I'm well aware she's not actually her biological daughter by any means, nor is she even adopted by that vegan teacher. It is just a nickname that has been popularized by various people to the point where that vegan teacher and Tash Peterson actually refer to each other as mother and daughter themselves.
Hi everybody, so sorry that we are late. We are having technical problems. Look who's beside me. Hi sweetie, how are you?
Hello, hey mom, how you going?
Hi, okay.
We're topless.
We're topless. We're topless, so you'll go big.
Now, just to give you guys who are unfamiliar with Tash Peterson, who are new here, maybe have never heard of her really, just know a little bit about her maybe, here is your visual representation of the kind of person she is. Please enjoy.
You're not vegan! You're no different to a Nazi serial killer! Louis Vuitton are responsible for the murder of cows, sheep, goats, horses, pigs, dogs, and bees. Get out! Why are you so triggered? If you were happy and proud of your beauty, watch Dominion on YouTube. See what really happens to human beings. Animal abusers! Total losers!
Abusers! Animal abuser!
Hey! Oi! What the fuck? What the fuck? This is so wrong! Green! What the fuck is wrong with you? You're laughing! You're a fucking psychopath! You smile because you have blood in your eyes and you're a piece of shit!
So now that the cat's out of the bag, and now that we are quite familiar with Miss Peterson, let's talk about these racism allegations just a little bit. So she was interviewing, well actually in this case the table was flipped. She was actually being interviewed by somebody quite intelligent. Now I wish I could have found the full video so I could talk about it, but I dug and dug for a while on this guy's TikTok, and he just has so many videos, like it was a nightmare trying to find it, so I kind of gave up. I may eventually make a video talking about the full interview, because I am curious to see what else goes on in there, because I'm assuming she probably got schooled, which is why she's not showing the full interview. It only seems to be the logical thing. The guy talking to her seemed like an intelligent fellow that was ready to debate her, which normally the people she preys upon in these interviews are people that are not prepared to debate her, people that have not really thought deeply on the logistics of consuming meat. So when she questions these people, they're so unprepared and they seem to completely fumble under the very simple questions. For instance, of being asked, what's the difference between a chicken and a person? Simple answer to that is chickens are not sapiens. They may be sentient like bees, which you guys are perfectly fine with being enslaved by the billions. So sentience clearly isn't some sort of qualifier for animal protection and not being eaten, and we are sapiens. There you go. You win the argument right there, because the second they tried to defend that, well, there's no difference, well, okay, then stop eating avocados and stop eating apples and stop eating soy, because all of these trees that produce these fruits and stuff that you consume, cultivated by bees, by the billions, that die and are sentient, and are forced to work for you, which is animal exploitation, which you are against. So there you go. The vast majority of vegan food that you consume is no longer accessible for you. But that's the thing. The people that she interviews don't have these answers in their brain somewhere. So they get stumped by these really silly questions with very easy responses. Now on to the actual clip itself.
What about chickens?
Well, they're sentient individuals too. I'm here to speak up for all non-human animals.
I'm just saying chickens seem like they only have one purpose, and that's to be eaten. Like, what do chickens do?
Well, that's no different to saying that black people only have a purpose to be slaves, right?
Oh, hi there, Miss Peterson. Have a seat. I'm the TheCurlKing, and I am about to, that vegan teacher your ass, take you to class and school you. I hope you came prepared with your notebook so you can take some notes. Today's lesson is going to be on how to not be a racist asshole. I gave this lesson to Miss Katie just a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, it was not well received. She did not seem to take that lesson seriously, but I'm hoping that you may do better, so I'm going to give you that opportunity. But before we get to that, I do want to address something very important. So this is about the chicken comment itself. As I mentioned previously, there's a vast difference between a chicken and a black person. But what's important to really understand right now is the question that he asked that you didn't answer at all, because for some reason, whenever you guys are presented with a question, a genuine question, you choose to just not answer it, and instead you deflect by using some bullshit analogy that's not comparable because of reasons we'll get to shortly. Now, the question, what are a chicken's purpose besides to be eaten? Now, there's a couple different ways to answer this. Because the fact of the matter is, chickens are a very defenseless animal that, yes, their point of existence is, to live like as an individual. True. However, we have this thing called food chain, really. And chickens are what we consider to be prey animals, just like many other animals like deer, like rabbits. Most herbivores are prey animals. There's some that aren't, actually quite a few that aren't, to be honest. There's some big ass ones. I'm talking elephant, talking hippos. Like, they ain't really prey animals. I mean, that is a mission. That is a big hunt for a pack of lions or something to go for. They're not really prey animals in that sense. But there are quite a few that are, like a chicken. And as far as nature goes, how the environment works, their purpose really is to be a prey animal. Like just in the wild. Now, we're talking about domestic chickens and wild chickens separately, but wild chickens really, they kind of just are food for animals because they're easy, right? They're easy to pick off. They're easy to, if a wild coyote sees a chicken, that chicken is as good as dead. They are nourishment for carnivores. Now, it's a sad thing to say, but I'm not saying that the chicken's only purpose is to be eaten, but it is like a major part of nature for animals like chickens to provide food for bigger carnivores. It's just reality. Same with certain other animals, but there are prey animals that do more than be eaten, but they have more purposes. They do more. Can't think of an example, but I know they exist. If any of you guys have one, please feel free to comment that. But I will give you examples of other animals that have more purposes for, the upkeep of an ecosystem besides, being food. Like a bee, for instance, which you guys are fine with exploiting and having die by the billions for your benefits, which is extremely ironic. But whenever addressed with this contradiction, you just dodge it. We're not talking about bees. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you being vegan. You always change the subject because you don't have a response to this, because the fact of the matter is, and I keep saying this and I will continue to say this until one day y'all present me with an irrefutable argument that says it's okay to enslave bees, which will never happen because your ideology says that sentient beings should not be exploited, and bees are sentient. It's a fact, an irrefutable fact, that they have complex social systems, hierarchies, communications within each other, and even partnerships with humans and their beekeepers. They know that they are providing honey for us, and in exchange, they get a safe place to live in their colonies without issue. Protection from things like bears that would come in, mess them all up, destroy their ecosystem, destroy their habitats, whatever it is. But yet, all vegans are fine with exploiting them because the vast majority of the foods that they eat are only readily available in such high quantity because we import billions upon billions of bees to the United States from all over the world so that you can eat your avocado. So if either of you wants to explain why you don't care about that, please do. I'd love to hear it. Now, it goes without saying, a black person is not a chicken. And Tash always wants to argue that there's no moral difference between a chicken and a black person, or any person for that matter. But we'll get into the weeds of that shortly. The only thing I want to say at this exact moment is I think it's just insane that the first thing in her mind, instead of answering his question, is analyze the color of his skin and then target that, just like Vegan Teacher has done to me. He asked a genuinely intellectual question, and instead of trying to respond with an intellectual answer, she says, oh, well, you're black, basically, and your people were slaves. You should be upset too, pretty much, which is fucking bizarre.
So this man states that the only purpose for chickens is to be exploited and eaten, and no one cares. Yet when I challenge that mindset, I'm labelled as a racist? Let's be clear. I never compared black people to chickens. I exposed the flawed logic that justifies oppression. Saying that one group exists solely for the benefit of another is the exact same mindset that has fueled human slavery and oppression throughout history. However, there is nothing wrong with comparing non-human animals to humans. We are all animals. We all feel pain, we all have families, and we all value our lives.
Why the fuck you lying?
No, seriously though, why are you lying, actually? Like, you literally said, like, in the same breath that you never compared black people to chickens, and then you talked about how you compared black people to chickens, and then you also said how there's nothing wrong with comparing humans to other animals because we're all animals. Like, what? Do you not hear the contradiction where you just sat like flustered when recording this, that like you just didn't know what to say to save face here and you just completely fumbled the bag? Because that seems to be what happened. You literally said exactly what I just said. Like, that is bizarre to me. But yes, you did compare black people to chickens, like verbatim. You literally said, when this guy said, well, what's, purpose of chickens really other than to be eaten, and you responded with, well, that's no different to saying a black person's only purpose is to be a slave. That is a comparison. Do you not know what a comparison is? Have you ever drawn a Venn diagram? Like, go back. You really do need to take this lesson seriously, Ms. Tash Peterson. I mean, this is evolved from a lesson of not being a racist asshole to just being a logically consistent human being that doesn't contradict themselves within 2 sentences of each other. That is bizarre. I say that it's bizarre, which is weird that I keep saying that, because the fact of the matter is I'm actually contradicting myself, because it's not bizarre, because that's what these vegans do. These crybabies, not your regular schmegular vegan for personal reasons, but your crybaby ethical vegan, everybody should be vegan, everybody should join my lifestyle because my lifestyle is the only correct way to live because I'm a narcissistic asshole. Those people. And let me just say, she doesn't retract this statement or anything. She doesn't like say, oh, you know what, what I said was a little bit too far. Like a logical person, somebody that realizes they've made a mistake. No, she doubles down on this. When somebody rightfully tries to kind of call her out, she doubles down on it and actually just makes it worse, which is crazy because she's trying to say she's not racist, which it's just so bizarre because she only seems even more racist after she responds.
So someone from a marginalised group is supporting the oppression of another marginalised group. That's not the flex that you think it is. You are actively promoting the exploitation, slavery, abuse, and murder of non-human people. That's horrible and shameful. So TikTok have now restricted access to my content in France due to it being considered illegal hate speech. The irony of this is astounding, since I'm trying to stop the hatred and oppression towards non-human animals. If this doesn't expose how deep speciesism runs, I don't know what does.
You absolutely deserve that penalty. I cannot express that enough. This is hate speech. You are a racist. You are saying racist garbage, and then you double down on it. You show no remorse. You don't show that you're going to improve. You don't just show that you are going to do anything better on this platform. You deserve to be completely fucking banned if you keep up this kind of behavior. It is disgusting. I mean, if your protests and you're going around shaking your ass and all that stuff and destroying people's afternoons and evenings by being an insufferable piece of garbage isn't enough to get you banned, then I think taking it a step further by just being a blatant racist and spreading this hatred, this hateful propaganda, this a black person is a chicken bullshit, and then also trying to go as far as correcting a black person that speaks out about, hey, I eat chicken, Like, and then trying to say, oh, well, you should be ashamed of yourself because your black ancestors were slaves and were oppressed and they're just like chickens. Like, that is crazy. That is so crazy. I don't know how you convince yourself that these are sound arguments. It is just so baffling. I almost can't believe it, but I'm forced to believe it because I've been seeing it for so long, and I know that you people really do say this stuff because you think it's going to have an impact. You might not truly believe it to the core of your being, because if you were logically consistent, you'd be dead right now because you wouldn't eat 90% of the food that is available to you, because all of it, the vast majority of it, comes at the expense of animals in one shape or another, and you are against the exploitation of animals, so you wouldn't consume those products and you'd be dead because you'd be severely malnourished and die from starvation. But yet, here you are, still alive, so clearly, a lot of these things you preach, you don't even believe yourself. But seriously, doubling down on this when confronted by somebody of that marginalized group, crazy work. It really does confirm this racist ideology. Like, it is so disgusting, it is so vile, it's despicable, it is deplorable. You should be ashamed of yourself. You need to do better. I almost want to pull a Joey Swole here. You need to do better. Mind your own business.